is the Kel-Tec KSG SBS, or short-barreled shotgun. This one, unlike its bigger counterpart, which has an 18.5-inch barrel, this one has a 13.7-inch barrel. This one also holds 10 rounds of standard 2 3/4-inch shells, 10 plus 1. That's 5 in each magazine tube. It has 2 tubes underneath it. Plenty of videos out there on the KSG. This one is no different, other than it has a shorter barrel, shorter magazine tubes, and an integrated vertical forend grip with an integrated flashlight. So why am I holding this shotgun? Well, I had a love-hate relationship with the KSG. My first one was a piece of junk. A few years later, I picked up another one, a flat dark earth one, did videos with it, and it's actually a pretty fun little shotgun. Now, there are some quirks to the KSG, like when it runs empty, it'll go click, no bang, then you have to flip a switch, then you have to pump the action to feed it. You know, it'd be nice if it just kind of automatically switched tubes. They'd never change that, but it doesn't take away from the fact it's still kind of a cool little shotgun. Now, some people get lemons, and other people have had really good working shotguns. This one, I bought specifically because the KSG is one of very few shotguns that run the mini shells, the new Federal mini shells or the Aguila mini 12 gauge shells. And we'll show you what those look like here in a second. But instead of 10 plus 1, now I have 16 plus 1 of the mini shells, 8 in each tube. 16 rounds of 12 gauge. Now, people are going to say the mini shells aren't lethal, and to that I say nonsense. You can get them with a slug, a little mini slug, you can get them with buckshot or birdshot. I would highly recommend, if you're going to use it at very short distances, like in a home, which is why I'm kind of interested in this one with its little integrated light. The switch is right here by your thumb. You can turn the light on. It's ambidextrous. You can reach on each side and turn your light on. At very short distances, that little mini slug is going to do a number on a threat. So to make the gun ready, you have your tab on either side of the trigger guard, and you just push down on the tab, pump around into the chamber. Very smooth action with the mini shells. You have a cross block safety. That puts it on fire. You have nice bright red F. That's safe, fire. And then all you got to do is hold on tight. Make sure you don't get your hand in front of that muzzle, which is right here. On top, I have a Vortec Crossfire red dot sight on a Vortec mount. Has a metal pick rail across the top here. All right, so I got my challenge target. It's only about 7 yards away. I haven't really zeroed the red dot sight, but let's just see where she hits. All right, so I ran dry, and guys, it's grouping like that on its own. Now, these are the Aguilas. Now, when you run dry, you have to flip this switch right here. That opens up the other magazine, hit your bolt release, pump around in, and you can resume shooting. And it's empty. So, just like all previous KSGs, it hits me in the wrist. The harder that I run the pump action on the shotgun, the more velocity those spent cases have, and the more likely it is to draw blood. Now, I ordered one, don't know where it's at, but there's a deflector shield you can put on here that makes sure those empty cases go away from you if you have big, long, goofy wrists like I do that get right underneath that ejection port, because it ejects right here. So anyway, let's have a little bit of fun with this little guy this afternoon. See how she runs with some of these new Federal mini shells. Aguila's been making them for many years. Let's take a look at these new Federal shells. And Federal did send us the shells for free, so Federal does do that. If you guys are interested in picking up Federal ammunition, however, swing by 2A Warehouse. Bunch of good guys. They sell ammunition over there. If you're looking for some Federal, again, swing by and check out 2A Warehouse. All right, let's load it back up. Let's put some Federal rounds in it and see how she does. So these are the Federal shells. The only shells that we got were the 8-shot shells. And so they have number 8 birdshot in them. And you can see it because it has a clear cap on it. The Aguila shells that we've been using, they're crimped over, that are shot shells. And then the slugs, you can see those bad boys. Now these are loaded pretty warm. These got a little bit of recoil to them, and I would definitely use these slugs in self-defense. 8-shot, this is just more or less for goofing around. All right, so this is how they package the new little Federal mini shot shells. I'm gonna go ahead and load the gun up. I'm gonna show you that the weapon is empty. Hit the release, and nothing in there. Unfortunately, you have to take my word for it. I'm sticking my finger in the chamber there. And here's how you switch back and forth, and the safety is on. S is safe. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, invert the shotgun, because this is the easiest way. If you lay it on its side and just throw the shell in there, it'll line up perfect, so you can just push it in. And again, it's going to hold 8 of these little teeny tiny guys. Now, as I mentioned before, there are not very many guns out there that will work with these mini shells. There are conversion kits for popular shotguns to allow them to work with the mini shells, but the KSGs, seems like they all work with them flawlessly. They actually kind of like them. All right, there's one side. Load up the other side after I flip my switch over there. Uh-oh. Dang it. I almost act like it wanted to take a 9th one. It's almost taken a 9th one. Let's see what happens. It's holding it. We'll pump it and see if... That's kind of weird. Let's see if she feeds it. She fed it. Let's count them, see if there is 9. Put it on fire. All right, so it was only 8. That one's kind of a little sticky getting in there. Now, one of those rounds was audibly less powerful. The other one's got a little bit of kick to them, actually, but one of them was like, I noticed that with the Aguilas as well. All right, so gun's empty, switch over magazines. A little bit weaker sauce. Definitely hotter. That was only 7 rounds, so I didn't fully load the other one. So maybe those Federal rounds are just a hair longer than the Aguilas. Let's see, because the Aguilas will comfortably get 8 in there. Let's count them, all right? We're gonna make sure bolts back, safety's on, chamber's clear. 1. And I gotta put that, now I'm gonna cause a malfunction. You gotta put that charging handle forward when you load these things. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ugh. 6, 7, one for my homies, 8, and they are just a little bit longer. It'll hold it. Look at that. The Federals are just a hair longer than the Aguilas, and you can just barely get 8 of the Federals into the tube. It will hold it. The clasp has it. Oh man, but I can't flip the switch. So I can only feed from one tube. I can't push that round down hard enough to get that switch to flip over. So if you're gonna use Federal, you have to load 7 to each tube for a total of 14, because they're slightly longer than the Aguilas. So they just vary enough where you're really only going to get 14 rounds of the Federal in there. All right. Huh, yeah, it's really easy for me to short stroke this little guy. You got to make sure you get that all the way back and all the way forward. But it's a lot easier to positively cycle the action on this one because of the vertical grip. But yeah, that's really, really interesting. We can definitely load up, put this on safe. Let's load up some of the bird shot here of the Agula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I can almost get a 9th one in, man. Those Federals, that's weird. They didn't seem that much longer. So let's see how much hotter the Agula or the Federals are based on recoil here. Got 8 of the Agula bird shot. All right, so the Federal's a little bit warmer. The Agula isn't quite as hot, but that makes sense. It's got a little bit more length to it. I only have a few more of the buckshots out. Let's try those. I'm sorry, the slugs. 1, 2, 3, 4. I only got 4 of the slugs. Let's see how these things kick. See if I can hit him in the face. Oh, only had 4. All right, so there you go. Those slugs are warm, definitely warm, and my red dot sight's mostly on. Huh? Interesting information there. Federals are longer than the Agulas. So we've been firing several hundred of the Agula and Federal shells this afternoon. We noticed that the KSG started having problems with feeding. It would just stop feeding. We couldn't figure out why, but when we would look inside here, the selector lever from one magazine tube to the next was getting stuck in the half-mass position, blocking both tubes from feeding. Wiggling this allowed me to come to the determination that this screw had come loose. We tightened that screw up and the feeding issues went away. So tonight I'm going to Loctite that screw into place, and other than that, my little KSG has had no problems with the mini shells. I will say this gun, when I first got it, was having sticking issues with full 2 3/4 inch shells. Sometimes you'd really have to like rack on that handle just to get the empty out. And I had that problem with my other KSG at times too, so it can be kind of specific on what 12 gauge shells it likes. But with the mini shells, either the Federal or the Agula, everything seems to run just fine. This little thing's a lot of fun. And I will say, the mini shells hitting me in the wrist don't hurt nearly as bad as the full size. And that's empty. Make sure she's clear. Put it on safe. What a handy little tiny shotgun. This is probably the only SBS I have any interest in owning other than maybe an Origin 12 SBS. I have a firearm, but as an SBS it would be pretty darn cool. It seems like the light's working just fine. You're looking at about $1,200 for one of these, if you can find them in stock. I ordered it through Copper Custom, and yeah, what a neat little gun. I mean, what a great little truck gun. It is an NFA item. Some folks don't want to use NFA items for self-defense purposes. I have no such qualms around the house, especially out here on the ranch with some slugs and that flashlight. This is a definitely a very cool little bump and something goes bump in the night response tool. I really, really do like this little guy. Huh, and you can see it's just starting to tear some skin. I can't say it really hurts, but I got a pretty good scar there. So there's some scar tissue for it to cut through before it actually gets into nerves. Fun, handy little light gun. Very, very cool. So the KSG is one of those shotguns that if it runs dry doing tactical reloads, isn't all that practical. Now, granted, you're probably going to find some YouTuber out there that has some cool ninja mojo that he has that somehow he can twist this thing around, throw shells in it, load it quickly. If this thing runs dry for me, I'm going to throw it at whatever the bad guy is, just like a bad, kung fu movie, and I'm going to draw my secondary, my handgun, and hopefully be able to solve the problem that way if this doesn't take care of it. And the reason I say that, loading this thing, the best way to do it, because you have 2 magazine tubes, is just to roll the gun over on its side, throw a round in there, and push it once you get the selector lever in the right position. And I really hate that. I wish it would auto select once one tube went empty, it just jump over to the other one. But you have to manually do it. Just throw the shell in there and push. And this makes it relatively easy to load. But doing this under stress and remembering to roll the gun over would be not something I would want to do if somebody was shooting at me. But with the Federal rounds, 14 rounds in there, with the Agula 16, if you can't solve your problems in 16 rounds, that's a pretty bad problem. Now, here's where things get interesting. I have to roll it over on this side so I can continue loading the other magazine tube. So with the Federals and the Aguilas, we noticed a couple of squib loads. I mean, they were just kind of boom, 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 boom. Seemed like they had a little bit less of a powder charge to them, but no malfunctions of the shotgun. That's the beautiful thing about a pump action shotgun. If you have a squib load in a shotgun shell, you don't have to worry about a gas system failing you or an inertial system not working. You just run that action and get the next shell in there, but every single one of them has fired. The only difference being between the Agula and the Federal is that the Federal, of course, is made here in the United States. Agula is made in Mexico, and the Federal is slightly longer, therefore limiting you by 2 rounds in the shotgun. So that's up to you whether you want to run Federal or not. Yeah, I think the bird shot is even fairly powerful here at 7 yards. All right, guys, if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel so we can continue to try to bring you as unbiased information as humanly possible, there is a link down below to join our Patreon page. Consider becoming a Patreon supporter, coming over on our private Facebook group, even doing some PS4 gaming with us on the PSN network. All privileges of our Patreon supporters. Also, swing by and check out coppercustom.com. All right, now for the last few rounds of the afternoon. Let's get out of here before it rains on us and maybe do a little deer hunting tonight. Thanks for 11 years of support, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Yeah, they're pretty warm, man. Those shells, these are the Federal, they're pretty peppy. Yep, definitely a very, very cool problem solver. Take care, guys.